how did you arrive in Tijuana?
And in this ministry?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Or maybe not even quite stepping into this ministry yet, but how did you start in Tijuana? So how did you get to the point where you came to Tijuana?
Wow. So how did we end up in Tijuana?
Yeah. Because you weren't here before.
No.
So how did that happen?
Okay, we were ministering in the Dominican Republic for 10 years. And through International Ministries, which is the mission organization of the American Baptist churches in the United States. And my main involvement there was with little churches, church starts, and helping them develop schools in their communities where they didn't have schools. Well, we were there, as I said, for 10 years, and we had 3 children. Our 4th child was born with Down syndrome. And I learned very quickly that it is very difficult in a third world country with a child with special needs, where they don't have services, where they don't have the medical care necessary. So I had to self-educate myself about early intervention, all the different therapies he needed, occupational therapy, speech therapy, medical care, to help him to develop and to grow.
So I'm going to cut you off. Were you learning on the job? You really didn't know this beforehand?
No.
This is not something you went to school for?
Never dreamed of ever being involved in special education. My background was in education, but I had very little exposure to kids with special needs. So, with Daniel, I just had to start learning, and we didn't have a computer, we didn't have internet, so it was very much getting information from people, books to read and learn. And he did really well. But when he was 6 years old and really needed to go to school, there was nowhere for him to go to school. And I was coming up every year to the States to bring him for medical care and all the needs he had. We really felt that we needed to go back to the States with him. Our 3 older kids were doing fine, but we really felt for Daniel's needs we needed to come to the States. So the door opened through International Ministries to come live on the border and live on the U.S. side of the border, where we could get his needs met and work in Baja, Mexico. First, Tim was mainly involved, always has been involved at the seminary. I did not know what my ministry was going to be. I just knew that we needed to make this move. And as we got to know the various pastors of the churches of the association, we got to know Pastor Miguel Altamirano, who at that point was the pastor at Monte Oreb, which is also the church that founded the Didache school. So he knew that I had background in education and had worked in education in the Dominican Republic. And then he also knew that I had been working very much with Daniel and was involved in his special education now in the States. And asked me if I could come to the school to help develop a program for children with special needs, because here in Tijuana, children with special needs either couldn't get into school or were being kicked out of the schools they were in because they couldn't meet their challenges, either their behavioral problems or their learning challenges. And Didache has always opened their arms to all children. But it became a challenge for the teachers here because they would have a classroom with several children who needed individualized help, and they couldn't meet their needs. So I knew at that point when he asked me that God had been preparing me for this ministry even before I knew this school existed, even before I knew we were going to live in this area and work in Tijuana. He was preparing me through Daniel and all that I had to learn because we were living where we didn't have services. So it prepared me, and I knew immediately that this was an opportunity that God wanted me to serve in. And so that's how I started working at the school.